I've written a lot of books over the last 7, 8 years. And while some books that I've written, such as All About Nikki, the Fabulous First Season, and The Thetas, have gone on to become big hits with readers, other books I have published have not really picked up an audience so far. And I'm going to talk about some of the books that a lot of readers, I believe, have missed out on that are really great reads, and I think you should really take a good look at. And one of the books I want people to take a look at is a book I published way back in 2008, but was republished in 2011, titled A Recipe for Success. Now, the original book's title was called The Cassandra Cookbook, but this edition is out of print now, and what's available now is a book called A Recipe for Success. And this was the first romance that I ever wrote, and it was critically acclaimed at the time, but unfortunately it never really picked up a lot of sales until I turned it into A Recipe for Success. But a lot of people have missed it over the last couple of years, and it's a great, entertaining story. It's a fun story, and I'm hoping that some people will watch this video and give it a read. And there were several other books that I have done like these in the ISIS series. A lot of people have picked up the later ISIS series books like All About the Goddess or Bride of Dracula or Night of the Vampires, but they haven't picked up other books in the ISIS series that came out previously over 2012, 2013, and 2014. And if you really want to see one of the great ISIS stories, you have to pick up Amari's Revenge. Now, Amari's Revenge is the first book in the modern ISIS series and pretty much takes place after the temptation of John Haynes and pretty much lays the foundation for a lot of what's going on in the ISIS series and in other stories, more recent stories like Your Bride of Dracula and Man Who Rules the World. This is a great story that pretty much talks about ISIS's past in Nubia and also talks about her relationship with with a villain called Queen Amari. And it really is a story that really gives you a great mix of Egyptian mythology, Nubian mythology, African American history, and fantasy, African American fantasy and adventure. And another ISIS series story a lot of people have not read so far and have really missed is ISIS: The Ultimate Fight. Now, this one came out of my interest in mixed martial arts and the UFC. In this one, the ISIS character takes on Nemesis, the Greek goddess of retribution, in a mixed martial arts match that's a little bit of world wrestling entertainment. It takes place in a steel cage. Part of it is inspired by The Undertaker and Mankind in the Hell in a Cell match. But this is a fun little entertaining story that a lot of people have missed out on, and they really have not picked it up and have missed out on it. So I really want people to see that this is the second book in the ISIS series, and it also lays the foundation for what the character wants to do with her career and her life. And I believe it's an essential read because it lays the foundation for a supporting cast and a big part of the ISIS series. Another ISIS series story a lot of people have really missed on was both of these books came out in 2012. These were the part of the ISIS 10th anniversary, and I put these out back then. So these are the first two books in the ISIS series, modern ISIS series. The third book you really want to pick up. This was one that came out in 2013, and this was a great story. This is one of, I believe, the defining ISIS stories. Is ISIS: The Beauty Myth. Now, ISIS: The Beauty Myth is a story that deals with ISIS's feelings of self-worth and self-image, and it's a story that I believe a lot of girls could learn something from because it talks about beauty and self-image and self-worth, and it lays the foundation for a major storyline in the ISIS series later on. Now, this is a very powerful story, and I think people really need to take another long, hard look at this one. It's a very compelling story. Everyone who has read it has really enjoyed it, and I believe you'll enjoy it too if you give it a read. Another ISIS series story that you really want to take a look at is the ISIS: My Sister, My Frenemy. This is a story about sisters and the relationship between sisters. And I wrote this one so that little girls who have a sister in their life that they're having problems getting along with could learn something from. So this one was a story that I thought that would help little girls, relate to their sisters. Um, and this is another great one. I believe a lot of people have missed out on. I really think they need to pick it up. One of the big stories in the ISIS series that a lot of people missed out in 2014 is ISIS Wrath of the Cyber Goddess. Now, this is the first cover that hero business artist Bill Walko designed for the ISIS series, and it's a beautiful cover, but the story is just as great as the cover. And this is an action-packed one that pretty much impacts the SJS Direct universe. It is as I call it, the first big event story I ever wrote. And in this one, Isis meets the John Haynes character from The Temptation of John Haynes, and they work together to take on the Cyber Goddess. And this ties directly into Isis the Beauty Myth. If these two books, they pretty much tie in together. They're a part of. This is literally a follow up to the. This is a follow up to the Beauty Myth, and it's a major storyline because it pretty much brings all the characters from Isis and the Temptation of John Haynes together in one story, and pretty much lays the foundation for stories like Night of the Vampires and Bride of Dracula, and lays that foundation for those stories. So that's what this book does, and a lot of people missed out on it, and they're like, and even though every story is an entry point, this is like an essential story to the series. And another story that a lot of people have missed out on is Isis Power of the Princess. Now this was a follow-up to Isis the Ultimate Fight, and a lot of people don't know that both of these stories go together. Now both of these stories go together because this is a follow-up to what happened in Ultimate Fight, and this is the story where Isis has her deals with Nemesis once again. This one is about, both stories are actually about bullying, and this one, the Ultimate Fight, was about bullies, and this one is about why the bullies bully. So both stories are I believe important, and a lot of people, they missed out on it, and I want them to, get caught up on the ISIS series. Another story that a lot of people missed out on was East Team Undercover. They missed out on this one. And this is another one Bill Walko did, another cover did, for the as part of the ISIS East Team crossover. And this one was a fun story. It's a funny East Team story, and a lot of people missed out on it, and they didn't really pick it up. But it ties into the ISIS East Team crossover and the foundation I was laying for the SJS Direct universe. You can pick up all these great books on Amazon.com and other online booksellers.